Hi guys, how are we all doing? I'm back again for another video, and today I wanted to look and talk to you about the Richie Kotzen RK5, which is by Tech21. It's called a fly rig, and I'll tell you a brief story about the reason why I bought one of these first, and then I'll go into what the pedal can do and just my thoughts about it really, and why I think it's such a great pedal. So we had a booking come through that required us to get on a plane and travel to the Channel Islands, which is not massively far. It's about sort of under an hour flight from where I live in Bristol in the UK. And just as soon as we took the booking, my brain started going, right, what am I going to take with me? What gear am I going to need? Can I take my camper? It's all wrapped up in a big system. It's quite heavy. Do I want to take that? Is there something smaller I can get away with? So I started doing some research as soon as I took the booking and started looking around for what I could get away with. I just needed like literally a get me through a gig pedal that give me great tones, great sounds, that I was happy with, and this pedal allowed me to do that. I came across it. It was the RK5, the Richie Kotzen Sans Amp Tech21. It's the company that makes them, and it's brilliant. It's very small, which you'll see on the video that will flash up on screen. It's very, very small, very thin. It fitted in the front gig pocket of my case. So I just popped it in the front of the case there and it fit perfectly in there. Didn't take up a lot of room and it sounded great, okay? The features, just to go through the features of the pedal, it looks great. It's in red, it looks fantastic. It's sort of like a shiny sort of red material, like a metallic sort of material. And it just looks fantastic and it sounds great. And it has an XLR socket on the side, which allows you to run an XLR cable to a PA or a mixing desk, which is a really great feature, which meant that I knew that we were having backline provided. If you're unsure what backline means, backline just means like amplifiers and things like that, things that are difficult to get on a plane, and if you're on a budget, so you try and keep things down. So backline was being provided by the client. So I knew that. I knew what I was going to be turning up and expecting, something Marshall, something Fender based. In the end I ended up with a Laney amp, which was absolutely fine. But it allows me, I knew that I had that extra option of being able to plug that XLR into the mixing desk to give me like left and right, front of house sound as well as the amp sound on stage, which was a great sound. So yes, it allows you to go XLR to the mixing desk, and then you obviously plug your normal cable from your guitar straight into this pedal, and it's pretty much like a does all pedal, okay? It has, as you imagine, pedal boards are heavy, and flying them out to a venue somewhere, it's just too costly. And also you run the risk of things getting damaged, broken, and some of these pedals nowadays are quite expensive. So what this pedal allows you to do is it has, basically, it's like a tool survival kit, I would say, maybe. A bit of a survival kit for getting through a gig, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a survival kit that would get me through a gig. I didn't need to take a big pedal board, and I didn't need to take a load of gear. I want to be in and out quick and have minimal stuff to carry. Guitar, case, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a bag for the cables. That's all I want to take with me, so keep it nice and simple. So this has, in terms of effects, in terms of features, it has reverb, which, your backline could have reverb, so you may not need that, but mine didn't. So I could use the reverb on the pedal, it's actually a really cool reverb, digital reverb. You can change the size as well of the reverb size. So like if you want a whole sound more reverb, or you want like small room sound, you can change that by pressing a button. It has delay, which is something that I use quite a lot, and it's very common for guitarists to use delay sound. And it's a really nice, it's just a really nice delay, and it has this drift function that is what I really like. And it's, when I use delays, my normal delay that I will use is either one off the Kemper, or I'll use MXR Carbon Copy Deluxe, because I love that sort of bucket brigade technology analog sound. But what I do love on that is the sort of the modulation sound. I like to have a delay with a bit of modulation on the end of it, and that's what the drift knob allows you to do. So you can set the time of your delay, set the repeats, set the level of the delay, and then you can use the drift knob to bring in some sort of modulation sound as well, which is really, really handy and got me closer to the sound that I was used to. Another thing you can do, and I experimented with doing, is running things into the effects loop. So you could, if you wanted to, you could put this into the effects loop, and then your delays and things will go into the effects loop. Potentially sort of like using like a 4 cable method style of thing. And again, I just felt like for the gig I was doing, I would normally do that sort of thing, but I thought for the gig I just wanted to be quick, easy, I decided just to use 2 cables, just straight in and straight out to the amplifier, and then, sorry, 3 cables I suppose, because I had an XLR cable coming out the side of the pedal, straight into the mixer, going out to left and right front of house. So it really was a really cool sound. So that was the delay. What else we got on here is the Richie Kotzen signature OMG, which is his sort of signature distortion pedal. I've heard mixed reviews on this, and I actually think it's quite good. It's pretty cool. It's got far too much gain from what I need, but I just kept the gain on a low setting, and you'll hear some of these examples a little bit later. And I just kept the gain on a lower setting, and I find it completely usable and sounded absolutely great. You know, that's what I used. It also has a fuzz function as well, so you can press a button in and it allows you to have like a fuzz pedal. Again, I'll go through that later. And then you've got the compressor on the right hand side and a boost, which basically gives you, I think it's up to, I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, I think it's up to like 20 decibels of extra boost, which is a lot. So you won't need that to be on a high setting. Mine was on very low, and I just kicked that in for a little bit of a boost for a solo. And then finally, you've got the Sans amp function, which is what allows you to go into the PA without having like cab simulation, all this sort of stuff. It's very clever and it's very organic sounding. It sounds very cool. On the Sans amp section, you've got your sort of 3-band EQ. You've got your low, mids and your highs. You've got level on there, and you've got a drive as well if you want to push it a little bit, probably like a gain control on an amplifier on the clean channel where you sort of push it and get more of a clipped, you know, crunchier sound. I did notice I had to keep the sort of Sans amp, which it says in the manual when I read it. It said that the level you may have to have it up pretty high, and it is up at around about sort of 2 o'clock, which is quite high. If you turn that off, it sounds horrific. It sounds really bad. It sounds like what you'd imagine plugging directly into a mixing desk would sound like for an electric guitar. But with that on, it just sounds great. You've also got, obviously the XLR function is fantastic, but you've also got a headphone out on the back of there as well. So if you wanted to, and you wanted to have some silent practice, you could plug in some headphones and you could listen to it like that, like through some in-ear monitors or headphones, which is great for practicing maybe before the gig or whenever. It's a really great thing. And then finally, on the sort of the delay side of things, you have got a Roto sound where you can bring in like a rotary sort of speaker sound as well. I didn't use that. I don't tend to use a rotary speaker sound anyway, so it wasn't something that you know, a feature that I used, but I found all the other features very, very useful. Okay, so that's enough of me talking. I think let's have a listen to what the pedal sounds like. So I'll start on a very clean sound. I'll start with clean and a bit of reverb on. I've got the reverb set to a slightly bigger size. And I'll turn the reverb up as well so you can hear where it will get to in terms of the reverb level. So nice clean sound with a bit of reverb sounds like this. And hopefully you can hear that trail of the reverb on the end there. So what I like about reverb is I use reverb very sort of in a small amount. I don't want it to get in the way of my playing. Reverb's there, so it's sort of, without it you notice it's not there, but I like to have it sort of in the background there, that sort of giving me a bit of like a comfort blanket, I suppose. So if I crank this reverb up a little bit, we can hear where it will get to. If I put this on full, which I wouldn't probably have it on that setting, but imagine, it sounds like now we're in a big hall or in a cave. So I wouldn't have it set to that, so I just take it back a little bit. I think I had it set, again, around about sort of 2 o'clock. Let me just check. Yes, I've got mine set just about 2 o'clock, which to me sounded great, sounded really cool. So that's the reverb as well. And what I do like is, apart from the button that allows you to change the size of the room, you can press that in and out. There's one knob for reverb. That's it. That's all you need. And simple sometimes when you're in like a situation of like just a fly gig, you're going out to somewhere to do a gig and then come back. Simple is great. You want things to be really simple. You don't want things to be going wrong. And I tend to like pedals that have the features that you want, but not lots of, you know, have to go into parameters, change this, change that, all these different buttons that you never can use on a live situation, in terms of, unless you're MIDI presetting these things. You know, if you've got just a pedal board and you've got all these pedals with all the different knobs on there, at a live gig, you're not going to be able to get on the floor messing around, setting them all up and changing all the settings. So sometimes I find that pedals have too many features that you don't use in a live situation. This has one knob for reverb, up and down, more or less reverb. And if you find that the hole is too much reverb, then press the button and take it out to like more of a sort of a small room reverb. Simple as that, really simple. So really, really cool. So that's the reverb sound. If I turn on the delay now, so this is where I think this is where I had the delay set last time I played it. So you can hear like it tails off. There's a bit of a sort of a drift, as they call it, on the end of the, like a modulation on the end of my notes. If I turn that up, you might hear a little bit more. So if I turn the drift knob up on the pedal, you might hear it sounds a little bit more wobbly, a little bit more out of tune sound. So you hear it's much more sort of like wishy-washy and a bit more sort of like detuned sound. If I take the level up to make it more obvious as well, just take the level of the delay up. Okay, so let's take the timer on the delay. We'll take the repeats up as well. Okay, so it can get really there's plenty of delay available there for you, so it's really, really clever, really cool. I did find that going a 4 cable method and popping it in the loop, it just sounded like even more like the delay that I like. And I normally use a 4 cable method if I'm using my MXR carbon copy. I put that in the loop of my amplifier. I just find for me it blends in nicer with the amp. Just prefer that method. And I did try it with this, and it did sound to me marginally better by doing that. Depends which way you like it. If you like more of that digital reverb sound where it's sort of like really sort of quite in front of the amp and quite in your face, or if you prefer that sort of more blended sound where it gets a bit more sort of mixed in with the amp a little bit more, then I would try maybe doing the 4 cable method for the delay. But yeah, it's a great delay. You can, as I said, you can set the level, you can change the repeats, you can set the drift, which is like the modulation. Yeah, it's a really great delay that sort of got me through the gig. So I'll turn the delay off. Actually, while we're on the delay sound, let's just try and bring in the Roto sound. So if I click that on, now the drift knob lights up an extra colour. So and now you can hear that rotary sound. So if I just take that up, let's take that down a little bit actually. So. As I said, I didn't really use that function. I only just noticed that by pressing it, the light changes from blue to has like an extra red button underneath it. So I only just noticed that by doing that now because I just didn't use that function. It's not something I would use, that Roto sound live. But yeah, so that's it. I said the Sans amp is moving along to the right, and these buttons are all lit up with these really sort of quite bright LEDs. They look quite cool. The delay side of things is like it's a blue color. The reverb is green. The Sans amp section is all an orange color, and then obviously when you get into the overdrive section, it's red. So it's very visual. So you can see what's on, what's off, just by looking down at the floor. It's very, very visual, which is obviously very cool. So we keep the Sans amp on. It will sound, because I'm not using an amplifier, I need the Sans amp on because I'm going direct into a Focusrite into my computer. So the Sans amp needs to be on to sort of give that, basically like a cab simulation sort of thing. But that's, it's a really cool feature. If I turn that off, it just doesn't sound good at all. So you need to keep that on if you're going to plug straight into like an interface or into a PA. Okay, so moving across then to the right now, I'll keep the reverb on. I'm going to turn on the OMG, which is like Richie Kotzen's signature pedal, his distortion pedal or overdrive pedal. And this is on a low drive setting. It sounds a little bit like this. Now on there, you've got the level control, so you can really take that up. You've got a tone control, so you can dial that in if you want, or more treble, more bass, you can just turn it left and right. And then you've got the drive setting. Now I said the drive setting there is probably set around about 10 o'clock. I didn't need it any more than that. That's fine by me. I can use the boost to sort of give it a little bit more. I don't want lots and lots of heavy overdrive, but I'll turn it up to show you what it is capable of. I'll turn it up to about 2 o'clock. It's pretty. So it will get into that sort of like territory of a bit higher gain. I don't need that much, so I tend to keep that at a much lower drive setting. And then on the far right hand side, if we turn this on, this is going to give us a bit of a boost. Hopefully you can hear as well, the compressor's kicked on there. If I just take that compressor off a second, it should just act as a boost. Just take that up. So what I want to do with that boost is set that to just above unity gain. So unity gain is sort of, you know, the level of which the pedal is sort of set at, and the level your guitar is going in at. And then you want to set that is just above, so that your boost is going to just take you just a little bit higher, which is for a solo or maybe like a lead part, and then you're going to come back out by pressing that boost switch. So if I do that, just gives me a little bit of a boost, kicks me out of the mix a little bit, which is fantastic. And again, if I click this little button here, it will give me compressor sound. So kick that back on. Now it's added to compressor as well as the boost being on. I'm bringing in delay. I'll just take the levels back down a little bit because I had it set a bit extreme. Just take the levels down so I think it repeats. There we go, let's try that. So as you can see, just a really, really useful, usable sound. I said I talked really highly about this pedal and I was really impressed with it, and this is now my backup rig that just slip in the front of my gig bag when I go to a gig, and if the Kemper, God forbid, if the Kemper fails, I've got a backup which will get me through a gig. And this is, I call this the get me through the gig pedal, but it does a really good job of that. It's not like it's a bad pedal, it does a bad job, or it sounds bad at all. It's a really good get me through the gig pedal actually. And it was around about, I think I paid about £330 or something like that online, which, to be honest, it's not a lot of money. I now use that for teaching as well. I used to set my Kemper up, and it used to be a pain because I used to have to pack the Kemper back down, because I've only got one Kemper, pack the Kemper back down from teaching in the week to gigging on the weekend. I pack it all up, put all the cables out, go to the gig. Now I can leave that wrapped up in my cupboard under the stairs, and I can use this now to teach, and it still sounds really great. It's not a Kemper, obviously. There's a difference in price though between £330 and the price of a Kemper. You know, over £1,000, like £1,500 plus. So there's a big difference in price. So you're not comparing like for like there, but this thing, in my ears and from experience of using this pedal, I just think it's a fantastic pedal for a get me through the gig sort of pedal, and something that you can use and take easily on a plane, and just a really solid pedal. It feels really sturdy, and yeah, just highly recommend the pedal. I definitely think you should check it out. It's the Tech 21 RK5 Richie Kotzen signature. It's a great pedal, and I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a like, and feel free to put a comment in the down below, and as I said, I will get back to you. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.